Hi everyone, so if you're wondering why I'm so up close and personal and why the kind of angle is like this, is because I want to talk to you today about eye makeup for hooded eyes. Now, full disclosure, I have actually filmed this video already. It was like a 14-minute long video of me talking about hooded eyes, about kind of tips for makeup application for hooded eyes, and I had done one eye and then I was kind of doing the other and talking through the process. However, for some reason that footage decided to kind of not be usable and decided to just not work, so I'm not kind of sure what that was about, but I thought that I would just talk you through kind of some tips and tricks and what I think kind of about hooded eyes in general, some pointers, things you need to remember, and it's a very natural eye makeup look that I've done anyway, not anything intricate that I think you kind of necessarily need a step-by-step talk through. It was just kind of how I wanted to do it, but technology was really against me and I'm really upset about it because it was footage that I was really happy with, so that kind of sucks a bit, but onwards and upwards. But if you want me to do a detailed just kind of tutorial of how I like to do makeup for hooded eyes, then that's fine as well, let me know and I will do that. But little disclaimer first as well, I have slightly hooded eyes. I know they're not really hooded, and some people can get very offended and upset when I say that they're hooded and then they say that they're not, and it becomes this kind of argument in the comments. So let's just kind of, you know, if you think I don't have hooded eyes, then whatever, agree to disagree. If you think they're really hooded and they're not slightly hooded, then whatever, it doesn't matter. I personally would say that they're slightly hooded. There's celebrities that kind of have that eye shape as well, say someone like Jennifer Lawrence or Blake Lively, where it's just slightly hooded, and what hooded eyes mean is that you don't really have much lid space. So if I come really close here, you can see this is my actual kind of mobile lid, and then here it's just kind of skin. And you can see that on me it's kind of more pronounced on this side than on this side because my brows sit on completely different places on my face. It's really strange. This brow is so much more higher up than this brow. It's really asymmetrical. I need like a facelift to be like that for them to be the same. I know sisters not twins and all that, but I mean they could like level up to each other, couldn't they? But it's always been like that. As a kid I've had it as well, kind of my face is just not very symmetrical. But you can kind of see I have a small amount of kind of mobile lid just here, and then the crease of my eye is kind of very this part kind of folds into the crease, which kind of gives you the whole hood concept. So it is something that I think a lot of people like to refer to as a negative, and kind of when people say, especially on YouTube, when it's like, oh, hooded eyes, it makes it sound like it's an illness or something, and it's not. It's just a different shape of eye, just like how someone who is Asian perhaps might have a slightly different shaped eye, or somebody who has kind of like really almond shaped eyes, like someone like Beyonce or something like that. Eyes come in all different shapes and sizes like everything, and hooded eyes are not an illness. You can still kind of wear pretty much most types of makeup, and you know, if you like to wear your makeup a certain way, then by all means do that. Don't let the fact that your eyes are hooded put you off and it kind of think that it means that you can't wear your makeup like that, because that's not true at all. But this is just kind of a nice way of making sure that your makeup's defined and kind of giving you that little bit of definition without making your eyes look even more hooded. One thing that's a kind of very obvious tip, but that is something that you really should remember, is that whereas someone who has not hooded eyes would be able to just take their darker crease colour straight into the crease, so straight in here, and kind of blend it. Well, if you do that and you have quite hooded eyes, you kind of can do it and then you open your eyes and the colours disappear, and then you don't understand why your eyeshadow never looks like that. It took me ages to figure that out. I kept being like, why does the eyeshadow never look like it does on other people, on me? You have to be clever about it, and this is where brows come into the picture. Now I know that the kind of fuller, straight across with not much of an arch brow is a very trendy brow at the moment. It has been for a few years now, and it's kind of the brow of choice for lots of girls and women. I actually think that if you have slightly hooded eyes, having a more arched brow is a lot more flattering because it gives you a lot more room to work with if you want to wear eyeshadow. So if you want to wear eyeshadow, let's say for the sake of argument that my brow is kind of a lot fuller here, I would have so much less space to take my eyeshadow up and to get kind of more of that defined eyeshadow look. Now if I wanted to be able to kind of really define my crease and kind of have like a slight smoky eye. Like, it's a very kind of daytime appropriate smoky eye that I've got now, obviously. If I didn't have much room to take it up with, you kind of end up closing the eye almost, because you've got a very small area between your brow and your eye, and you kind of can't move it up high enough. So having a bit more of an arched brow, I do think really helps. Not everybody can do that, you know, it is kind of a lot to do with just the shape of your brows. My brows are kind of quite arched naturally anyway, but I do like to kind of pluck them into a kind of more of a arched way. Like, I could let them kind of grow in here and they'd be more thin, but it would just be a bit too much, I think, for my face. So having a slightly more arched brow does give you a little bit more room to work with, which is helpful. And then always remembering to take your shadow above your crease. Now, the eyeshadow palette I used today and that I used in the deleted unusable tutorial was this one by Soap & Glory, and it's the Lid Stuff palette, and it is called What's Nude. And the shades I used were Vanilla, which was the white one, and the brown one, sorry, is that Vanilla? Pink Tea, Mud Honey, and Aubergine. See, it says that one's, I think that one's Aubergine, that would make more sense, but I think this one's called Mud Honey, and I used that one in the crease. I don't necessarily think you have to abide by the rules of sticking to matte shadows. I generally prefer a shimmer on the lid and a matte in the crease, but it's all down to what I'm feeling that day, and it's not something that I generally kind of pay much attention to. It's just whatever I'm feeling, but that was what I did today. Taking your darker shade, which is this one, or whatever shade you've chosen to use in your crease, I like to take a small kind of brush. This one is it's from Crown Brushes. You want something that's kind of a little bit precise, not something like this one. This is the Zoeva 227 Soft Definer. That's great for blending, but you kind of don't really want to put that all over because I think it can get a bit messy. Something like this, and then you want to just go ahead and take your colour higher than your crease. So you can see where my natural crease is here. And what I did was I took the shadow above my crease, almost kind of to my brow bone, blended it out and back in, and kind of put a little bit on this area of my eye as well. So out and back in a kind of C motion on the outer part of my eye, because I like that type of eye shape. I like that kind of elongated eye on me, but sometimes I can kind of not wear any eyeshadow and just have lots of mascara, and I think that's a really pretty look as well. But I like that kind of elongated, slightly cat eye. I think it's not really a cat eye, is it? But it's just a kind of more elongated eye. I think it's a bit more flattering on my eye shape anyway. But taking the colour above the crease is so important, because if I went ahead and just put it in the crease, I'd open my eyes, you wouldn't be able to see any of this kind of haze of colour that you've got here. Now obviously this is a daytime look, I've blended it in. I don't like a kind of really dramatic look in daytime, but you can see here, it's just a kind of nice wash of colour that's gone above my crease. If I tried to put that right down here, you wouldn't see it, and you'd also have tons of space here, which would just look a bit weird. So that's for eyeshadow. Then for eyeliner, which is something that kind of a lot of people really struggle with if they do have hooded eyes. I kind of struggled with it for a while as well, and it is something that you kind of have to work around. Not every eye can wear it and it'd be flattering, but to be honest, if you want to wear it, just wear it. It doesn't matter if it's flattering, who cares? But you want to find something that kind of can give you a very thin, precise line. I like the Revlon Colorstay Skinny Liquid Liner, because this one has a very thin line, and it's kind of a brush rather than being kind of doe foot applicator, so it kind of gives you the flexibility, and the lid kind of makes it very easy to kind of get your desired shape. But you know, this is kind of down to personal choice. This is just the one that I find very easy to use, because I think you kind of do need a fairly thin line. If you go ahead and do a really thick line, kind of you take up so much room on your lid that you already don't have tons of room for that, so I think it's kind of more flattering. And another thing I like to do is I like to kind of take my liquid liner from the middle of my eye, kind of, well, 3/4 in and outwards, rather than taking it all the way in. I do take it all the way in kind of if I'm doing an evening look or something like that, but during the day I think it kind of just opens up the eye and is a little bit more flattering, and I like it better that way. But that's just kind of personal choice. I just think it looks a bit more flattering like that. But finding where your wing is going to be is kind of tricky. If you want me to do like a full kind of how to do eyeliner and that kind of thing on slightly hooded eyes, I can do that. But what I generally do is use your bottom lash line as a guide as to where your flick is. So if you kind of just follow your bottom lash line, you can sort of see that if it was to extend and go upwards, it would kind of extend to there. And that's just how I do it. I'll just kind of do the top line, then I'll follow that, do a little wing and connect the two. Same on this side, although on this side it's kind of like a little bit thinner, but it's because also my eyes are completely different shape, sides and sizes as well. You kind of follow that up and then connect, and it's just really, really easy to do it that way because you've kind of got the general gist of the angle that it needs to be at anyway, and it's just a lot easier. But I definitely recommend you trying this. I would never have picked this up, but I got sent it, and since then I've bought it twice, like used them up and repurchased twice because it just works really, really well for me and I love it. So that's everything I think that we've got to talk about, kind of tips for hooded eyes, or slightly hooded eyes even, whatever you want to call it. Just remember that they're not kind of anything bad, they're not an illness, they're fine, and it's something that kind of lots of people have, and there's tons of makeup looks that you can wear. And I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you've got any tips and tricks on doing makeup for hooded eyes, and I'll see you next time. Bye.